Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake. Help you create something awesome today with the amazing and talented Tim Schmoyer, my good friend. How are you doing today, man?
I'm all right. I preferred your first intro, though.
Yeah, no, maybe that'll be in a blooper reel of some kind. But we're here at Social Media Marketing World, hanging out, catching up after the last conference we were at. Tim, I wanted to talk with you about something a little bit more serious that the audience might enjoy and everything like that. You've been a content creator for how long, Tim?
I started 2006.
So OG, original YouTuber.
Right after YouTube launched, a few months later.
Yeah, so that would be about like 17, almost 18 years now.
Really?
Yeah, it's been that long, dude. We're coming up on like
2006,
2 decades. Yeah.
16 to 23. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while, right?
Dude, I did not realize that.
No, right? And you've seen like 3 different YouTube CEO changes. You've been there. You've seen it all, largely done it all, I would say at this point. Tell me something, Tim, like in terms of like creators and having a long-lasting career as a content creator, what are like some of the ups and downs and like what's the real stuff that most people don't talk about or don't see behind the scenes?
That's a loaded question.
See, there's the side.
There's a lot to that.
There's a lot.
So, there's a lot of good stuff. You know, I'll say this humbly, made more money than I ever thought I would ever make in my entire life, you know.
Same.
Ever. When I first started on YouTube, I was making $14,600 a year, full time, you know. Just got married, so my wife had to work, and I thought, you know, as a career-wise.
That's literally like college kids' slave wages, my friend.
I was youth pastor at the time in a church, and they offered, that's what they paid, and for some reason I should not have said yes, but I did, you know, so that's a whole nother issue. But and so there's certainly that, which sounds like it's a huge perk, and it is in some ways, but there's the saying, more money, more problems.
More money, different problems is like what it really comes down to. Most people do not realize that.
That is very much true as well. So so that's a plus side of it. Another plus side is I get to meet and hang out with amazing other people, and a lot of my friends and my relational network is wrapped up in this niche around
Same. I've
YouTube
met like the best people in my life because of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also really like that I get to serve people with content at scale in some way, of creating content that really helps people. And my mission is to reach people and change their lives, and try to make content and train other people to do that too with their content, so that we can all make the world a better place than it was before through this medium. So there's certainly a lot of perks to it. And so I want to start there before the rest of this goes. So there's when most people, I feel like, are looking at being a full-time YouTube creator and things, like they have a lot of stars in their eyes, and it's kind of like when you're an 80s kid. You're an 80s kid.
Yeah, 84.
84. Okay.
Yeah, we're about the same age, right?
80. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1980, yeah. So it was like when we were growing up, it was like being a rock star.
Yeah.
You know? And then it was like being a movie star, you know. And now it's like being a YouTube star. And on the outside, like that stuff looks awesome. And there is a lot of good you can do in the world.
But it's like being a Disney kid and everything like that. It's like, oh man, gotta go crazy afterward.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of jump into the weeds of this, part of my story is that after making about 4,500 videos across 9 channels over the course of 13 years, this was a few years ago now. I woke up in the middle of the night just with it felt like my stomach was just clamping down on this double-edged knife. It was like 3 a.m, and I expected to see like something poking out of both sides of my body.
Right, you expected some gruesomeness to be like.
I've never felt anything like
somebody
that before. Yeah, no, it was like I swallowed it, and it was like anyway, and like my stomach was constricting. It was terrible, and I couldn't stand up. I get out of the bed. I rolled out of the bed, and I literally crawl across our bedroom floor, go in the bathroom, thinking like maybe I ate something. I don't know.
Yeah,
and it wasn't that, and then it was getting worse, and so I was like ended up like army crawling across our bathroom floor, across our bedroom. Trying to wake up my wife, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Like I'm on the floor, like pulling on the sheets, you know, trying to wake her up. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I got out of the hospital." I'm not like I have a pretty high pain tolerance. In fact, at that point hadn't seen a doctor in like 6 years, you know. So
go see a doctor, everybody.
Well, yeah, and that turned out to be a problem because I couldn't go see the doctor later because I had to start over like the new patient survey and like
Oh
all that stuff all
no.
over again before I could get
Yeah,
seen. So
this is why you got to go and do the
yeah,
physical every year and everything like that. Roberto says as he hasn't actually done it, and like yeah,
easy to preach.
yes,
Um,
so easy.
so anyway, call the doctor on call, and by the time they called back, it was about half hour later, and the pain was subsiding, thankfully. So I didn't go to the emergency room, but I did go see a doctor, and I did see a therapist also because I was like, I don't know,
Right.
and both of them were like, "Do you have any stress in your life?" And I'm like, "No, not really. Like I
Mm.
feel fine." And they're like, "Well, tell me what's going on." And so I started telling them, they're like, "You don't have any stress in your life?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "You are in denial." And I'm like,
Oh, okay.
"What are you talking about?" I was so good at burying that stuff and not feeling that stuff, but my body was feeling that stuff.
Do you feel like a lot of us as like entrepreneurs and content creators that like our delusional like mindset allows us to like achieve like all these great things, but then we also self delude and we don't have a certain level of self awareness sometimes?
I don't know. That's hard to say at like a categorical level.
Mm.
For me,
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I was very much like put your head down and just work and drive and go bigger and further, faster,
Yeah. All the
and
things.
that's fine for a period or a season of life. Like if you're just launched out as a new content creator and you just now became full time, whatever. There's
Like how I talk about
appropriate
like the season of
a
hustle, but you
season, yeah,
shouldn't like
but
try to
not
make it a
9,
whole lifestyle.
13 years of it.
No,
No,
yeah, no.
I would recommend just kind of parenthetically here that if that's your situation, you put a date on the calendar that you and if you're married, your spouse think is appropriate of like you can hustle for this long at this pace, but if this date comes and you're not full time yet, or that date comes and we haven't reached the goal, like it doesn't matter,
Reassess.
we're backing off because sacrificing your life and your health for this is totally not worth it.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing mostly therapy. Ended up the physical stuff was stress
In
related.
person therapy?
And yeah, and so I meet with the guy I used was local, so
Yeah.
but it was sometimes over Zoom, not all the time, but
Okay.
so depending on schedules and things and travel and such. And the short story is that I had been driving so hard for so long, been sacrificing so many other things that I didn't. My body just collapsed and something had to give. Something had to like I can't keep going at that pace. And for me, the thing I gave up honestly was content creation.
Mm.
And thankfully by that time I had a good sustainable business around the channel. I wasn't the only host or personality on it anymore,
Right.
and I stepped away for 6 weeks pretty quickly at that point, and the thing kept growing even without me. And I came back after completely like I didn't even check in on Slack or anything. I was like completely gone. Had to decompress and came back, and things were still going great. Which, as a business owner, you're like, great, that's awesome that I
Yeah.
got to that point. For me, though, I was more like, they don't need me, And then there was another
Lack of
crisis I had to
purpose.
deal. Like, yeah,
Existential
and I
crisis, lack of
ended up
purpose.
subconsciously sabotaging things in the business
So
in
that you
order
would
to
be
feel
needed.
needed. Yeah. So these are the types of things that you don't really think about as a content creator. And I think being a content creator reveals so many unhealthy beliefs we hold about ourselves. Let me say this. It doesn't necessarily have to,
I think
but
it
it
generally
can
does.
if you're open to it
Yeah.
and open to those conversations, risking vulnerability, whether it's like, hey, I'm really doing this because I feel insecure and I need the internet to make me feel good about myself,
Mm.
or I'm ultimately doing this not because I care about people, but because I care about money and I heard I could get rich quick doing this, or I'm ultimately doing this like why, like, and for me, I had a
It
pretty good
reveals
why. I
your
think.
motives and your like what you reveals some of your motives, but also what drives you and where your priorities might be in life
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
I think it's important to be gut level honest with yourself about
Mm.
what's really driving you. Why are you actually doing this? And if the thing that you're really chasing after went away, like would you still be doing this? What would you be chasing instead? And
Mm.
I think it's easy to look at the numbers, at the popularity, at the money, at the all the fame and the fortune and stuff, and be like, I want that, and I get that, but that does come with a cost. And this is maybe another story, but honestly, part of the story is that I was away at a trip a few years ago, at a convention, and I came home I wasn't sure if my wife and kids would still be there. You know,
What made you have that thought? What made you have that first thought that when I get home, my family's going to be
it's
gone?
a history. There's a history, a longer story there. But my wife and I were going through as a lot of junk was coming up for me. A lot of junk was coming up for her too,
Hmm.
and things that weren't unhealthy in me. Were impacting our family in ways I couldn't have known before and couldn't have seen before going through a lot
Was
of
it
this with
just like you
therapy.
couldn't know because you weren't present, or because you weren't in the mindset before therapy gave you like some tools,
It's
or
because we all have wounds. We're all wounded somewhere by someone or something at some time, into like emotionally,
yeah,
especially as kids when we're growing up, whether it's a teacher or a parent or an uncle or a friend or whatever, and we don't
trauma?
realize, yeah, and even if it's not like huge trauma, like
Mhm.
just like a series of lots of little hurts can add up over
Oh
time,
yeah,
you
no, that's
know.
called like yeah. No, you can fragment things and everything like that. Things chip away at you. They
Yeah.
add up. It like weakens the structure of anything.
Sure, there could be like an instance of child abuse or neglect. That would certainly be trauma, but it could
Yeah,
also be lots of little things. So
yeah.
those things add up, and we start learning how to cope and deal with the world around us based on those lenses that we develop.
Mm.
And when we're younger or going through the pain, like those lenses serve us really well. Sometimes they keep us alive
Yeah.
because we actually need those in order to cope with the pain or cope with the,
Be functional.
yeah, and so those addictions, those things that come up are actually
Vices.
really,
Yeah.
really they serve a purpose. Like they
Yeah.
don't come up for no reason. But over time, those things switch, and because and
Mm.
what used to actually keep us alive in some cases actually becomes the thing that starts killing us and our
Mm.
relationships and our ability to connect with
So something that
others.
serves you you end up serving it later. It ends up
Yeah.
enslaving you in a
And
way.
some of those things, I had a lot of those things, and there's
Ooh.
no way to know what they are until you start seeing the consequences of what's
Your
going on.
work and your career can serve you. It gives you this money, it gives you the security, it gives you the safety and everything like that. But then it's like instead of you owning it, it starts to own you. It starts to possess you. Instead of it serving you, and it's like, oh, it's serving me, it's helping me, it's making my life easier, it's giving me health insurance, it's doing all these things for me. Now it's like, oh no, no, no.
Yeah.
Now I'm beholden to it. I'm serving the thing instead of it serving me.
I feel fairly confident in saying no one has the self awareness at a deep enough level to know if they're in that situation or not.
Interesting.
You know, it takes a third party who is trained and can listen and knows what to look for, knows the right questions to ask, that can bring you to a point you're like, oh shoot, you know,
Uh-huh.
whoa, what do I do now? It's not fun. It's not easy, but it's good. And so so my wife has those things. All of us have those things. You have those things. I don't know what yours are. I don't need to know. But all of us, like I don't know how you can get through life without being wounded in some way. And those wounds and the things you have to protect yourself eventually impact, usually negatively, your relationships and how you perceive the world, why you work, what drives you, what doesn't. And there can be a lot of good stuff in there, like reaching people and changing lives, but there also could be a lot of stuff in there that's not. And so to answer your question, when I came home because my wife and I were both in the middle of working through some stuff individually, separately. She
Yeah.
has her wounds. I have mine that we're working on healing, and those were impacting our relationship together too. We've been married 17 years,
Hmm.
7 kids in
Wow.
that period of time. 7 kids in 8 years. That was in the 10th season of
That's
life.
a lot.
So
You have a couple of twins though.
one set of
One
twins,
set of
yeah,
twins.
identical
Okay.
twins, yeah. So and so it was in the middle of that I came back and I was just like, I don't know. And we had some pretty rough phone calls and conversations while I was gone too,
Hmm.
and she was very hurt by me and others in the past that I was like digging a knife into those wounds unknowingly, not intentionally. It's just like it's just you live with someone for 17 years.
Hmm.
You know, there's no wonder the divorce rate is
What?
so high, and people who
Yeah.
don't get divorced are so unhappy and are having affairs and things outside of it. Is because
Hmm.
they're not working through these issues.
Would you say that like content creation took you away from being present in your marriage and in your family as your career escalated?
I would not say that. I would say it made me feel validated
Mm.
outside of where I should have been getting my main validation from, which is from
Family.
inside. Yeah, the people who actually know and care about the real me, not the person I was delivering to the people around
The
me.
utility that you provide,
Yeah,
you know,
like
the usefulness. Like we're men, we're validated by our utility. We want to be useful. We want to be helpful because what's the point of us being around is how we
yeah,
think. Well, we're not validated by just being present or existing. We have to be functional. That's just how men develop psychologically. And so when that source of your validation, a lot of people, they get it from their work. If they're an employee, if they're an entrepreneur, they get it from running the business. As content creators, we're getting it from, yes, the business we built, but the fact that we also have this collective mass audience. Sometimes, if we're full-time content creators, this massive audience, if we're speakers, these cheering crowds, and there is something addictive and seductive about that because there is a dopamine
we
hit.
all
There's
want to feel
we all want
important
that.
and needed and
Yeah,
special,
who
and
wouldn't?
that is
That's
good.
why everyone wants to be a musician and a rock star and because you want that. Everyone wants that.
Yeah.
Like secretly, everyone wants that.
Yes.
And then there are some of us who publicly actually achieve it, but there's a cost. Everything's
That's
equivalent
right.
exchange. There's a price that you pay.
Yeah.
Some people go a little too far.
In
Some people
fact,
sell their souls.
Some of the creators I know who are most successful are actually the most lonely people in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't know, do people like me because of me or because I have these cool toys or because I have this audience or because I'm popular and they're just hanging out with me because I make them feel special. Like,
Correct.
And so it's a big tangled web. But so there is a dark side to all this, but I do think
Maybe
it
that's
can
the
be
name of this
addressed.
episode, The Dark Side of YouTube.
It can be addressed by embracing humility personally, by embracing a teachable spirit and attitude. And I think one of the best investments you can make in your career, just whether it's on or off YouTube, is becoming a healthy individual by giving someone else access to poke at the things that you don't want to address, and the things that you deep down, and even if you don't, like, I didn't even know what all my issues were. My therapist was pointing out, but I knew what the symptoms were, and even just poking at the symptoms with someone else was like helpful enough to get me to a place where, all right, I want to start addressing this. I'll start dealing with this stuff, and so anyway, all that to fast forward. I kind of want to end it on a dark note.
No, and I think we still got some time, but I think this is fascinating.
So I guess to kind of continue that story forward before we get to the light at the end of the tunnel is that I stopped making content and team kept going and I started focusing on the things that we all say actually matter, but we don't live our lives typically as if they actually do matter.
Right.
Yeah, like we would say health and fitness matters, and honestly, part of my journey is like I'm almost the heaviest I've ever been right now, and I'm getting it, but I'm just last week started to be able to get to an emotional place where I can address that because part of my story is like I gave up some of the things that I was coping with, which is great. But I took on instead like food and
comfort food. That was a big thing for a lot of people the last 3 years during the pandemic. Like,
food is emotional, no matter what you say. So not that you personally, but I mean, you know.
But I mean, I gained like 12, 15 pounds during COVID-15. Like I gained a weight during COVID that I was unhappy with. I've since been starting to finally shed a lot of that weight. I've turned a lot into muscle. I've started working out and my mental health improved dramatically from doing that. And I feel a lot better. I was depressed for the 3 years of the pandemic, Tim. A lot of people, I've been talking more about that, being a little bit more open about that, but everybody copes and it seems, and everyone struggles. And in this industry, a lot of people, the reality is the audience gets the best of us. And sometimes the people in our life don't. And that's something that I think a lot of creators don't realize that they're doing, like subconsciously, is that they're giving their best to this audience, these people who essentially quote unquote help them quote unquote make them, so to speak. But then the family that supported them through that, the people in their life that supported through that, the relationships and everything like that, those get neglected without people even realizing and noticing. And then the people around you, they don't want to be a burden. They don't want to be a bother. They don't want to distract you from your goals and your dreams. So they sacrifice things that you don't even know about unless you really, create a scenario where they can open up to you.
Yeah. My weight wasn't due to COVID. Mine was due to not as a kid not learning how to appropriately handle emotions, and so I learned not to have any. And that was, I mean, I didn't think that at the time. I was like, I can be happy, I can be angry, and there's superficial levels of that, but to actually appropriately be able to handle my emotions, which made it difficult for me to appropriately handle my wife's emotions and kids and stuff too. So But so anyway, so what I ended up doing is like do the doctor or the therapist. It wasn't his recommendation, but I had to give something up. So give
Yeah.
up content creation. And at that time, we had a pretty solid YouTube growth agency. We're working with about 600 ish clients a year,
Hmm.
doing a lot of really cool stuff. And so it's pretty. We were. I was able to coast, and
Interesting.
so I did pull way the heck back
How
on
big was
on
your
the work.
team that was supporting that?
I was 11 at the time.
11 at a time,
Yeah,
everything.
11. Yeah. So we had some good systems and processes together, which is a whole other conversation for biz dev. Like you
Yep.
need like SOP, standard operating procedures, all that kind of stuff to make it sustainable. So
Yeah.
we did all that. So it was good. It was
And that lets
growing.
you step away.
That let me back off a lot and focus on things that I to. And then going into 2020 two. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
No, so it was a little over a year ago now. So 2022.
Hmm.
I had a company reach out and they're like, "Hey, we'd like to acquire you guys. Here's what we're doing." And
Hmm.
the CEO of that company,
Good friend of ours.
no, not who you're thinking of.
Oh.
Yeah, different company.
Oh, different company.
Yeah, as a tech startup,
Ah,
not in the YouTube space.
I see.
Yeah, flew out to my house and put some numbers up on the whiteboard, and I was like, I never thought about an exit before. I mean, I had thought about it, but I wasn't
But
like
not
it wasn't something I was
seriously.
pursuing.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know, like. Brought my wife out to the whiteboard, kind of like, this is what it would look like. What do you think? And this is not exactly what she said, but this is how it impacted me. In my words, is she said, she's like, Tim, is this going to take you away from our family more? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And she's like, well, more money doesn't change our lives, but not having you around as much will.
Wow.
And that's my summary of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, shoot,
How
you're
did
right.
hearing that make you feel?
Protected.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like by that time, my wife and I, like now, my wife and I are at a spot where we're doing better than we were on our honeymoon. Like
Wow.
it's like, it's been so good, so fruitful. It's hard work, but it's good work. Right.
Mm.
And usually I have a bunch of options in front of me. Like, what do I do with this situation? I look at like, which is the hardest option? And that's usually the right one,
Right.
So,
That's a good way to look
so
at it.
yeah, so I was like, well, I don't know. So I told the guy, let me put this on hold for a second and let me think about this. So I started reaching out to other friends of mine who are more familiar with mergers and acquisitions,
Yep.
including the friend of ours that
Yes.
we have. And before long, I had 5 companies that were interested. YouTube even reached out as well,
Mm.
but they move way too slow for me. So
Yeah, that can be
I
a
was
thing.
like, I already have offers from this other. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do something, you gotta do
Guys,
something
like
else.
like YouTube likes us and they move slow for us. So
Well, that wasn't that was a that was an
Yeah.
acquisitions department, and
Yeah.
that would have looked very different. But anyway, so 3 offers for 3 different companies before long. So this is the part about the
Yeah.
mental health part is when I when I was processing all this, should I sell or not sell? What I didn't realize was just how much I wanted it. I wanted a new
Mm.
challenge. I wanted to do something different, and one of the downsides, you could call it, of being a creator is like it's your full-time gig, and especially when you start hiring a team. Like I had
People
like
rely on you,
like
depend on
there's
you.
11 other families that depend on this for their livelihood,
And then we get the itch to go crazy and do
or
something.
do something else. Like
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore just because I want
Yeah.
to, because it impacts more people than just our family.
Mm.
And I can't just like go get a new job because I felt stuck, and I didn't realize how stuck I felt until I had an opportunity to
So,
get out.
like golden handcuffs.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it was like, on the outside, I'm living the dream. We had at the time and still have today. Like it's a 9-bedroom house with an in-ground pool, 7 bathrooms, 5-car
My
garage,
brain is now envisioning.
pond.
My brain is now envisioning golden handcuffs with like diamond encrusted YouTube play buttons.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that to like brag or
No, I
anything.
know
I'm
you're
saying that
not.
just
I'm
to kind of
poking
paint the
fun.
picture of where we're at. Like that's really hard to give up.
Yes.
And so the journey of going through these negotiations and entertaining this idea of like I had 3 offers on the table from 3 different companies, and that was an emotional thing in me I didn't know was there. Was I'm just tired.
Mm.
And part of me, like, being a creator in the beginning is a lot of fun, and even perpetually it can be, but there does need, at some point, it's not sustainable perpetually if you
Mm.
get into it because you really like new challenges and you like creating, you like expressing yourself. At some point, that's no longer how you want to
Novelty,
express yourself.
variety.
That's
Oh,
not really what
yeah.
does it for you.
Yeah.
That's not really a challenge, and the thing that you used to be really passionate about in terms of what that did for you no longer is doing that for you, but you can't say no to it anymore if you've got 11 other people whose jobs depend on that. And so I didn't realize how stuck I felt until
Mm.
going through this process. And so September of last year, I chose to sell to vidIQ,
Yep.
which is awesome.
Yep.
It's
Our good
so
friend
good.
Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like,
Who's a really OG in the space and everything like
oh
that.
yeah,
He's
I've
been,
known
yeah,
Rob for over a decade.
Dade, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what part of what made the process for this acquisition really, really helpful. Is that
Yeah.
I know his wife and the kids. I
Someone who
spent the night at his
genuinely
house.
that you know and
There's
who cares
trust.
about you and
Yeah,
trust and everything, and has your best interest at heart outside of business.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a really good match for like what
Mm.
we were able to accomplish with scalable YouTube coaching in our agency, and what they are moving into with scalable coaching.
Yep.
The vision at vidIQ now, we just nailed this. This is the first time I'm gonna say it publicly, I
Oh
think.
yeah. Hey,
Um,
exclusive.
and I can say it publicly. It's fine now. The vision is to be able to supply a human. Well, let me rephrase. The exact way we wrote it is to be is a coach for every creator.
Mm.
So, and that includes human coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So every creator not only is getting access to like suite of tools and things that they use to go to their channel, but a coach to
Mm-hmm.
work with you through curriculum, to work with you through material, to work with you through the tools, to
Yeah.
work on you with your content strategy and everything. So
Making that more accessible to a larger group of people. I mean, working with us, at a certain point got wildly expensive for
yeah.
some people, but making it more accessible to people
Oh
that
yeah.
have that one-on-one help,
Very
have
accessible.
somebody that's like invested in you, somebody who's looking at
Yeah.
your stuff, give you perspective. It's very valuable.
It's going to be extremely affordable, and so my task is to figure out how to do that for 2 million weekly active users, creators. It's
Interesting.
one thing to do that for 635 clients we worked with in 20.
So that's what you mean when you talk about scalability.
Yeah, it's like the ratios that we figured out there, I think, will translate, especially with vidIQ now building some tech around some of this stuff.
Yeah, the AI stuff I think is very fascinating.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge part of it too. But anyway, so what that did for me is like that's a new mountain to climb, and that honors all the intellectual property that we've developed all the years. That honors like what my team I've hired, what their zones of geniuses are, what they love doing. They get to do this at a bigger scale, and so now I'm in a place after several dark, tough, challenging years where personally I'm healthier, which made me make better decisions and be able to find a way to get out while still honoring everything that I invested into for what'd you say, 16 years of my life or something like that?
17 going on 18 years.
Jeez. So
Yeah, almost 2 decades, my friend.
yeah, I didn't even think I was that old, but here we are.
Right?
For 42. So yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty hard pivot, but I feel more alive. I love what I'm doing for creators, and I love what we're looking forward to hiring potentially 500 to 1,000 YouTube coaches here in the next few years.
No, that sounds excellent.
Giving those
that
people
sounds
good work.
Like, okay, so that makes sense in terms of like some of the scalability for the many people you're talking about. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a fun ride, and yeah, so I'm doing much better, and I only have to be on camera when I want to, and when I get to hang out with cool people like Roberto.
Yeah.
I do have my own personal podcast now, but I only do that when I want to.
And I think that one talks more about family and about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's tentatively titled "Business, Family, Marriage" with Tim Schmoyer, but Pat Flynn gave me a really good idea for it yesterday. I registered the domain on the spot. It's family-centered business.
I love that. I love
You
that.
do? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta run that by a few people. At first, I'm like, that's a much better way of saying it than family. Basically, I'm talking about the lessons I've learned from growing a fruitful and profitable business. Those lessons also translate to growing a fruitful family.
What about even just calling it the family business with Tim Schmoyer?
Well, because family business to most people means like your family works in business together and you hate it. You know?
Okay, that's fair.
So it's not a family business.
Uh,
It's like doing business for the sake of serving your family
That makes more
rather than
sense.
sacrificing your family for
Oh,
the sake of
so
pursuing this
so
other
what
dream.
about the family-centered business with Tim Schmoyer? Is like that sounds
Yeah,
like awesome. It's
I
like
just registered the domain last night
I
on my
like it.
phone while I was standing there with him. So I'm still tossing the
Pat's the
idea
man. See,
around.
that's why, like, yeah,
He just said it in passing, and I was like,
yeah, no,
dude, that was way
yeah,
better
no.
than what I've come up with.
Pat has like genius just oozing out of him to where he can just start slanging it everywhere.
Yeah,
It's like it's
yeah.
great. Like, yeah.
So anyway, there's like the tunnel, but it is a process. It is a journey, and if you're going into this creator endeavor as a career and as a life journey, it's absolutely worth it. But just keep your motives in check as much as you can, and make sure you have someone else speaking into it. Even if you don't think like you need it, even if you don't notice the consequences of certain beliefs and behaviors that we have, I think is absolutely worth it in order to have a fulfilling, sustainable career on this platform.
What's your best advice to creators starting out that feel demotivated?
Well, if you feel demotivated, I don't think there's any like what do you mean demotivated because it's not working, or demotivated because I don't know if I want to do this, or
Because
what?
they feel it's not working, they're not seeing results as fast as they would
Oh,
like. They're feeling discouraged, so to speak. Because that seems to be one of the biggest, like, out of all the like challenges. I've done so many polls, so many surveys. That seems to be one of the top 3 every single time.
that's a good question. I would say, without having any additional time to think about it while I delay answering.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's what comes to mind.
Tim stalls for lightning round questions.
Here's what comes to mind for me. One, there's no like you don't have to do it. Like you can give it up, and there's no shame in that. There's no dishonor in that. You gave it your best
Dishonor!
attempt. You gave it your best shot, and these are the results you got. I think the way they feel discouraged is like maybe. I'm not saying it's true for everyone, but is like if it hurts worse if you're trying to put yourself out there and people are saying no thank you. Like that's worse, and that becomes a like really deep discouragement. And for some people, I think it makes you try harder because you can't take that rejection, and you just wouldn't want to, right? So you try harder and you push harder. Like, no, please, this isn't. And then maybe I'm reading into it a little bit.
What's worse,
more,
being
but
rejected or being ignored?
I don't know. For me,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm really good at turning off emotions, so I can deal with either one.
Oh,
So, but I'm not
Tim
saying
the-
that's the healthy thing
Tim
to
the
do.
Machine Schmoyer.
That's not the healthy thing to do. I'm really good at telling people where they can shove it and move on. But rejected for me, I think I would rather feel rejected because at least then I know where I stand. If I'm ignored, then I don't.
If I'm ignored, I don't even rank with you. I don't even
don't
have any
know.
gravity. I don't like, if I'm ignored, like rejection, you could just say that value is not for me, or I don't like think, but at least you're acknowledged if you're rejected. If you're ignored, you're not even acknowledged. You're not even like worth anything or present is how it
Maybe.
feels, how you
Yeah.
internalize. I would say that's how,
Yeah,
I think that's
I
how
would say
small.
That's gonna be a different answer for
Yeah.
different people, though.
I think so, but I think that's what a lot of smaller content creators feel is they feel like I'm not even worth negging. I'm not even worth dunking on. Like it's like
yeah, and I think that's what leads to the demotivation.
yeah.
And so that's why if you feel like that's true for you, and then not and the lack of motivation is coming from a place of not feeling noticed enough or recognized enough for your efforts, then I think that would be a good place to maybe stop creating on purpose and address some of those issues first, so that when you come back and create, you're doing it from a place like Ryan Trahan says, like as a gift to you, not as like I feel pressure to make this perform well, but like here's what I made. It's a gift. No pressure on me. No pressure on you. It's just like
freely
I just wanna
given.
put this out in the world. Yeah,
Freely given without expectation.
Exactly.
I think that deep down, a lot of people, they've given themselves such unreasonable expectations, and they're being hard on themselves. And the thing is, but if you like, because a lot of people say when we say, "Oh, give what I expected," like they think there's some gimmick or some trick to that. But what it really is it's a gift to yourself because you're saying, I don't have the pressure to perform. That's a big anxiety trigger. The pressure to perform. When I turn on a camera, I always feel it, and there is an anxiety trigger. I get over it, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like, but I think that a lot of creators would feel better if they just did something because it is interesting enough to do by itself to feel rewarded by doing it.
Yes, that is a hard place to get to.
It's an extremely hard place to get to.
That would be
But what'd you say? Isn't it like sometimes choosing the hardest option is the best
O
one in the end?
Often, not always, but as a general principle is
Yeah.
usually the right place to go. The way I think about it now is my job isn't to make a viewer feel a certain way or like me enough or whatever. My job, and I can say this more genuinely now than I used to be able to,
Yeah.
is to at a high level, the best way I have it is like restoring order from chaos.
Ah, I
So,
like
in
that.
other words, there's something in your life that's not quite right. There's something in your life that could be better. How do I make content that helps address that and makes it right, makes it better in some way? Not that's my responsibility to do that, but at least equips you in some way
You
or
know, to be
encourages
helpful.
you
Yeah.
or
It's
something
yeah.
in some way to do that. And so when I think about making content now, like on my personal podcasts for like I'm thinking about it like here's a listener or a viewer who has like this thing is not right in their life. How can I help speak into that and provide something, tools or something to help them make that better?
Yeah.
And so now it's like goes back to Ryan's like gift analogy. It's like how can
Yes.
I just help and serve with without it needing to reflect on me in any way. And like I
Mhm.
said, that's a hard place to get to, but I
I
think I
think
am
so. Yeah.
more genuinely at a place where I can say that confidently
Yeah.
and
Well, I'm happy that you
say that.
managed to get there and everything like that. I know it was not an easy journey.
Yeah.
Speaking of journeys, the journey on this episode has come to an end. Tim, where can they find you?
You can go to timschmoyer.com for pretty much everything. And I say that because businessfamilymarriage.com might not be a thing by the time you see this. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you search for the Business Family Marriage Podcast or the Family Centered Business, I'm not sure which name I'll go with yet.
Yeah.
But timschmoyer.com will have it all right there. So just
Yeah.
go there.
And you could probably just type his name into any platform and you'll probably be taken care of and everything like that.
Yeah, you might find me other places. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. But that's it for this one. Stay awesome. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.